everybody. Today I want to take a few minutes to talk about TEA structure. TEA structure is an argumentative or persuasive type of writing that you're going to be expected to become familiar with as freshmen. Demonstrate that in your English classes, probably right up through your senior year. TEA structure is a simplistic way to have a sound persuasive or a sound argumentative written piece. So we're going to practice that quite a bit as freshmen. This will just serve as a brief introduction. There are other notes that I'll post on Schoology, in particular a PowerPoint that I'll ask you to review for tonight with 3 types of claims. Be familiar with that for tomorrow, please. Before I get into the TEA structure itself and how we approach writing using this particular method, whether that's an argument or a persuasive piece, I just want to touch briefly upon these 2 things, audience and purpose, and the relationship that those 2 things have as a writer and why you need to know that. Before you pick up any pen or pencil or type anything into a word processor or a computer, you need to understand and know 2 things. The audience, for whom that piece is being written, and the purpose, what is the intent or the goal of that piece. You have to understand those 2 things because that's going to influence a lot of other things with your writing. Everything from word choice to diction, syntax, perhaps whether or not you want to use humor. Audience and purpose is essential because it provides that rudder, if you will, for your sailboat here. If you were a ship, if your piece of writing was a ship, the rudder will provide that guidance, or the knowing the audience and purpose. For example, you probably wouldn't write the same way to a teacher or to a grandmother as you would to a classmate. Just like you wouldn't speak the same. So that would be one instance of audience and purpose. Conversely, what I'm finding out using technology is that when the audience changes and it becomes an audience of your peers, that tends to impact your writing, usually making it a little bit deeper and a little more thought out than if I were just your audience. Which makes sense because other people are viewing it and you probably want to leave them with a favorable impression of your intellect, and writing style or skills is one measure of that intellect. So we'll talk more about that. I just wanted to touch on that real quickly because that is important to understand. Now, TEA structure itself. What I like about TEA structure is it uses an acronym to remember some fundamental elements that are essential to any well-written piece in terms of argumentative or persuasive. And it's an acronym, which are great ways for our brains to remember things, that stands for topic or transition, examples, in other words, support, and your analysis. And what I'm finding teaching this to incoming freshmen, most freshmen have been exposed to topic and transition, and they're okay with that, and they understand the support, and that support can come from a variety of sources, life experiences, literature, historical references, contemporary references, allusions, and we'll talk more about that in class. But the analysis piece is a part that a lot of students just don't get, or they don't have in their writing yet. So the best way that I answer the question as far as what is analysis, the analysis component, it answers the question, why are my examples important? Why are my examples important? And that's a key thing to want to answer. It links nicely to audience. Okay, as a writer, sometimes we assume that the reader is able to make inferences based on our support of our position or our topic. And that's not always the case. Sometimes that needs to be explicitly stated through your analysis. And we'll look at examples in class. I just want this video to serve as an introductory piece. So your TEA structure again, topic and transition, examples, and analysis. Generally speaking, how many examples should you have? It depends. Writing is not absolute. There are different writing styles for everybody. Suffice to say, one piece of support or evidence or example usually isn't enough to solidify a position. Conversely, 2 is good, but 3 or more, generally speaking, is better. And those should be a mix of examples for support. So having said that, as a brief introduction, your assignment for tonight will be to take a look at the PowerPoint that's posted on Schoology. Be able to identify for tomorrow the 3 different types of claims. Those are policy, value, and fact. That'll be our starting point for tomorrow to build off of this. But again, tomorrow please look at the PowerPoint and be able to identify the different types of claims and what they have in common and how they're different.